urbanization going forward, the role of cities, particularly in innovation, whether it's innovation in technology or whether it's innovation, frankly, in arts and culture. The city, at the end game, it defines, we live and work in cities or in communities, but rapidly we're moving to a much more urbanized global approach to business. So really the focal point's got to be, where can you access this? Government's always going to be amorphous. At a more municipal level, I think you have an entry point, the one-stop shop, the incubator type of approach. Invest Ottawa is actually trying to do some of that, because you just don't want to be going around government departments.
I'll just add one more piece. Once you actually find where you can apply, once that's been resolved, I know what helps me personally is that if there's a very clear evaluation criteria, so that if I'm going to spend hours and hours and hours completing a document, like I want to know how this is going to be evaluated, as opposed to just I'm going to write a whole bunch of stuff and hope that it works, right? Tell me what you want to hear, and I'll make sure that it's down.
Yeah, and I must say the Jenkins report identified the challenge that was raised in terms of the multiplicity of programs that exists. Maybe
we have some other questions. There's one right here, I think.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'll follow the mic.
At the risk of being a bull in a china shop here, it always upsets me when an innovation panel degenerates to a discussion of how to get more government funding. So I'll ask the three panelists a challenging question here. For all three of your businesses, would you still succeed in the world markets without any government funding? Is your idea that good?
I'll start off with that. The Asperity and the iPark.ca system has no funding. We are completely self-funded all the way through. Our model is it is going to sustain its own growth or it's going to die. And I'm happy to say it's sustaining its own growth. So, that's the way that we've decided to actually go through and do it.
Yeah, similar. We had to start with government funding just because we started from zero, and it helped us get over the first hump. Would we be successful without government funding? Absolutely. We've gone to the markets. We've raised more than $10 million to do what we've done in private equity. So a good idea will sustain itself. Absolutely, no question. Does the government funding help? Absolutely. When you can get 40 cents plus on the dollar back after you spent $1 million, $400K the next year, it really does help, especially in a small business. So, yeah, we would be successful. But it's always that incentive and always that help, and you become more innovative. I think you spend more money. It's no different. Research and development happens because you have to sustain yourself and you have to keep ahead of the next guy. But you also can spend extra dollars if you know you got some of that padding going to come back in aid in the following year.
Steve?
There's always good money looking for a good home. So I don't think access to capital in terms of you have a great idea should be a barrier at all. I do think, though, capital funding and the cost of capital in Canada is an issue. We don't actually have deep reservoirs of cheap capital that allows us potentially to compete on the world stage. That is an issue. One of the biggest challenges for a lot of startups is how much time they have to spend on the road, trying to get the next round of funding. And it's detracting a little bit from their focus. So, but there's always good money. Again, in Canada, we need to learn to be more global in going after that money. And if you, again, think about innovation as also being collaborative and partnering, then again, there are always opportunities to bring in. I think sometimes in Canada, we're a little scared. We don't want to give up stuff, and we don't see the value of partnering with folks. But again, partners have access to cheap capital sometimes. So.
Okay, we have another question over there.
Hi, I am one of those government programs. the Canadian Innovation Commercialization Program. We were mentioned in the Jenkins report. Tom Jenkins calls us his favorite little program. In the Tom Jenkins report, there was discussion about an innovation department. Now, that would be only at the federal level. That was the focus of his report. Is that the answer? Is concentrating the programs in one department the answer? Because as a program, I'm sure most of the people in this room have not heard of CICP, and we have difficulty getting the message out there to you that we exist. So what is the answer for the government? Like, what is your advice to the government, to me as somebody who runs one of the innovation support programs?
Terry, want to tackle that one?
That's a tough question for me to answer. I think it goes right back to what we've heard, though, is how do you get all of these government programs to focus or funnel through one avenue? And I don't know if I can stress that enough. I spent 2.5 years in Northern Ontario trying to make it all come together, and at the bitter end, nothing came. So, and that's costly. And if I had some access through a central point, I've never heard of your program. I mean, I'm from British Columbia, so that's not out of the ordinary, but it's an innovative nationwide program. Why haven't I heard of it?
Steve?
Yeah, you raise a really great question, and I think one of the aspects of how we think about this is how and where do we disperse our funding. We have a proclivity in Canada to spread the butter so thin that nobody gets to taste it. And so we have so many programs, none of which are blockbuster programs. They're all dribs and drabs. And so the first thing I would say is, should we frankly take all these programs and kind of, put them into a single governance system and really be able to use our dollars, more effectively? Because it's always, the equation is time, value, money, right? And so, and I don't know, I think culturally, if we said, we have the Ministry of Innovation and, we have, it gets highlighted, elevated, even at a federal cabinet level. Because at the moment, my feeling is that we kind of push it down. A lot of countries at the cabinet table have a chief technology or science advisor that sits in cabinet meetings. We don't do that anymore. We used to. So I think, I would like to just see us kind of focus it and not kind of just have dribs and drabs.
Yeah. So I'm going to jump in, Gilles, because we've got lots of questions on Twitter, and I want to make sure we get to some of those too. We have another question from the floor as well. We had a question saying, we're encouraging students to be innovative. Should they quit school when they have a great opportunity to commercialize?
I'll field that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Give it a take.
The answer is no.
Good.
Next question.
I'll carry that on a bit. When the high-tech boom was going on, students would come and they had early job offers, and they'd say, I get this fabulous salary. I'm going to leave, and the answer is no. At least finish your bachelor's degree. You spent 3 years, 3.5 years. What's another 4 months? What's another 5 months? A really, great, innovative idea can withstand 4 months or 5 months of time to actually get it out. So, students should actually finish that degree. If for some reason their innovative idea doesn't take off, then they have something to still show that they've got from university.
Let me add, I'll jump in also on this one because of my background, but also because of the fact that a couple of months ago I had the opportunity to visit, and I'm sure Roseanne has done the same thing, visited the digital zone at Ryerson, which is a very innovative environment where students come in a milieu, rub shoulders with entrepreneurs, and develop technologies and businesses from scratch. And so I was chatting with some of the students, asking them, what their product was and how they were commercializing it. And I asked them, what year are you in? The chap was in engineering, and he said, I've quit my studies to devote all my time to this project. And in essence, what they have in their mind is the Steve Jobs, the Bill Gates model. And, this is one out of, 10 million, 100 million in terms of the opportunity. So you have to avoid that. I mean, I think it's much better, as Dwight was just saying, to take a little bit longer to develop that business, that enterprise, and get some assistance. But that is one challenge, young people dropping out early because they want to devote all their time to their idea, which is laudable, but is very risky. So
we've had some other questions along the lines of the relationship between academics and innovation. So one person has asked, is academic culture a barrier to commercializing innovation? And someone else asked, can academics partner with industry and truly innovate?
So Steve and Dwight.
Almost as a follow-on from your last point, Gilles, I think that, innovation is neither a perfect art or a science, but there are methodologies of innovation. And so one of the things that I'm not sure we do enough of in our educational establishments is teach innovation process management. Because very often good ideas don't succeed, not because there wasn't a market or a technology. It's because people don't know actually how to do innovation process management. And there should be, in my view, courses on innovation process management that leverage expertise, that leverage mistakes that have been made. Because, again, time, value, money. And, money is short at the start of an innovation. So actually being an expert in innovation is important. On your point about, private sector and academia, absolutely the two can work together. And I'm going to draw very specifically on an example here in Ottawa that we've had. We start, so Nordion, as Mark mentioned, has a sort of a leadership position in molecular imaging. Also in Ottawa, most of you will know that we have a world-class heart institute. And literally, this is another key component of innovation, is talking and collaborating. The CEO of the Heart Institute and myself literally sat down one day and said, why don't we do stuff together? Like, we sell products that you use. Why don't we think of something? So we didn't actually have a specific in mind, but we created an innovation construct. And we eventually defined a private-public partnership where Nordion actually built its labs in the Heart Institute. We put our PhDs into the Heart Institute, and we leveraged their research capability, their access to patients in clinical trials. We identified a need. We started with, and those of you who know about life sciences know that the technology cycles are very long in life sciences. We went from an idea about creating a compound to actually getting into clinical trials in man studies in 3 years. In 3 years. And the Heart Institute would never have done it by itself, and we would never have done it by itself.
Excellent.
So we have time for one, maybe two more questions, and we have a question from the floor right here.
Excuse me. Thank you. The question is, the Jenkins report noted there's about 417 different programs in 17 government departments. I was actually the policy guy that wrote up in Foreign Affairs the ISTPP funding as we changed it from something we did to move it, outsource it. But I can say with 5 years of retirement that the Jenkins